You saw it happen, and suddenly the whole room felt emotionally different without anyone saying why. Someone answered warmly, but for one split second their eyes looked like they wanted out immediately. You probably know that strange moment when everything sounds normal, yet something underneath turns unmistakably cold. It is so quick, you almost doubt yourself, but your body catches it before your mind. That is why these moments stay with you, replaying later because they feel small and important. The eyes change first when someone cannot hold together what they feel and what they show. Most people call it overthinking, misreading, or simple awkwardness, but that explanation misses the real tension. Those tiny shifts are emotional leakage. The instant inner conflict outruns the face trying to behave. And once you notice that, a lot of past conversations suddenly make uncomfortable nuisance fast. Because the issue is rarely lying, attraction, or fear, even though people love those easy labels. Usually, it is something more human, two opposite states colliding at once inside a person fast. They want to seem relaxed but feel exposed, or want closeness while bracing for possible rejection. They say yes, but a part of them hesitates hard enough to flash through their eyes. That flash is what unsettles you because the brain registers the mismatch before you can explain. And the more polished someone sounds, the more revealing that tiny break in their expression becomes. You may have noticed this during a conversation that felt smooth on the surface and heavy. Someone asks how you are, you answer, and their eyes drop a degree before they smile. Nothing obvious happens, yet you instantly feel less safe, less believed, or less met right there. That does not always mean contempt, and it definitely does not always mean dishonesty or manipulation. Sometimes it means the person heard more than they expected, and their control briefly slipped there. Drop that myth first, because eyes do not expose a fixed truth about anyone at all. They reveal friction, and friction is often more important than any label people rush to use. When words and eyes separate, briefly, you are watching a person manage two realities at once. What they say belongs to the social moment, but the eyes answer to something more private. And that private answer is where the real story usually begins, if you stay awake enough. Picture this. You give someone a sincere compliment, and their smile arrives seconds before their eyes. They look down, then back up, but the warmth lands late, like permission had to arrive. You can feel the delay, and it tells you the compliment touched something deeper than politeness. Maybe it stirred insecurity, desire, suspicion, grief, or a need they usually keep carefully hidden away. The eyes shifted because one part of them wanted the moment and another part feared it. Praise can expose people more than criticism because it reaches places their defenses guarded for years. That tiny eye change is not drama, it is the nervous system making a fast correction. You might have seen this when someone agrees too quickly before their face catches up fully. You suggest something simple, meeting later, helping out, changing plans, and they say, sure, instantly there. But their eyes pull sideways, or blink hard, or seem to freeze a fraction too long. That quick agreement may sound friendly, but the eyes whisper pressure, reluctance, guilt, or fear first. They may want to keep peace, avoid disappointing you, or protect the self they perform daily. So the mouth moves toward harmony, while the eyes reveal the cost of that performance underneath. False agreement feels strange because the words arrive smoothly, while the eyes show internal resistance underneath. And if you miss the eyes, you might accept the yes and never see resentment coming. Then there is the opposite pattern, when someone holds eye contact just a little too long. At first, it can look confident, magnetic, even intimate, which is why people so often misread it. That stare is not closeness. It can be control, testing, defiance, or a shield against exposure. Some people lock their eyes in place because looking away would reveal too much movement inside. They know that breaking contact might expose nerves, attraction, insecurity, or the urge to retreat completely. So instead, they overcorrect, and what should feel natural starts feeling tight, deliberate, and emotionally sharp. You can feel it instantly because connection breathes, but forced eye contact pins the room down. And that is the point. Discomfort often hides behind behaviors people assume are signs of strength. The eyes matter because they react faster than the story a person is trying to maintain. not because eyes are magical, but because they sit close to the microsecond negotiations happening inside. A person can choose words, posture, and tone, but second eye changes slip through practice control. That is why you often trust the feeling before you trust the explanation for what happened. Your mind wants evidence, but your nervous system already noticed the mismatch and changed your distance. You lean back a little, speak more carefully, or leave wondering why the interaction felt off. That small adjustment in you is not paranoia, it is perception responding to emotional inconsistency fast. Still, it helps to slow down the meaning, because one eye shift never explains a person. What it does reveal is a live moment of friction, and friction is information worth respecting. The next question is, what kind of friction you are actually seeing in that exact moment? Sometimes it is attraction meeting self-protection, like when someone lights up and immediately looks away. You mention something personal, and their face softens, but their eyes break contact almost too fast. That does not automatically mean they like you, but it can mean the moment reached them. Eye movement becomes retreat, not because the feeling is fake, but because it is real there. Real feelings make people manage themselves harder, especially when they do not know if safety exists. So the eyes flick away to buy time, hide intensity, or keep vulnerability from becoming visible. Other times the tension is shame, and that looks different even when the smile still stays. A person laughs with you, accepts the compliment, maybe even says thank you, but something collapses. Their eyes flatten, darken, or lose warmth for a beat, as if the praise hurt slightly. That reaction can come from feeling unworthy, scrutinized, exposed, or reminded of the gap they carry. You are not watching rudeness, you are watching someone briefly lose the protection of self-criticism. And that is why their expression may recover fast, because people are practiced at hiding shame. The eyes change first, then the social mask returns, and the conversation keeps moving like nothing. But you feel the drop, and that feeling matters because pain changes how people receive closeness. Then there is fear, the most misread of all, because people assume fear always looks obvious. Often it looks polite, attentive, agreeable, warm, while the eyes keep checking exits you cannot see. Someone says they are fine with your question, but there is a strange pause before answering. During that pause, their eyes shift sideways or downward, as if they are choosing safer words. That is not proof of deception. It may simply mean honesty feels costly in that moment. People hesitate when truth might trigger judgment, conflict, intimacy, obligation, or a reaction they cannot control. So the eye change becomes doorway into pressure, not a courtroom verdict about character or intent. Once you understand that, you stop chasing dramatic explanations and start reading the emotional temperature instead. And that makes you less gullible, but also more compassionate because conflict inside people is common. Most people are not performing emotion. They are juggling several and leaking whichever spikes first. That is why a person can seem warm and guarded, interested and distant, open yet defended. You are seeing emotional mismatch, and mismatch is often the truest thing happening in the interaction. Because mismatch shows what the person is trying to manage, not what they want you believing. So what should you notice the next time that split second appears in front of you? First, notice timing, because the most revealing reaction usually happens before the person has arranged themselves. If the eyes shift before the smile, before the answer, or before the last, that matters. The first reaction is often less edited, which makes it a better clue than whatever follows. Second, notice direction, not as a code, but as context for what the person is regulating. Downward glances can suggest self-consciousness, inward pressure, or emotional impact they do not want exposed. Sideways glances can suggest scanning, avoidance, uncertainty, or checking whether the situation still feels manageable now. Unbroken staring can signal control, challenge, hyper-awareness, or effort to keep something from slipping out visibly. None of these directions mean one fixed thing, but paired with timing, they become unusually informative. Third, notice mismatch across the whole face, because eyes almost never shift alone without company somewhere. Warm mouth with cold eyes, calm voice with hard blinking, a yes with frozen cheeks counts. That combination tells you the person is not moving as one emotional piece in that moment. Some part is participating, while another part is bracing, retreating, containing, or silently disagreeing within them. Once you start seeing these patterns, ordinary interactions stop feeling random and start feeling strangely legible. You understand why a compliment created distance, why an invitation felt off, why answers lingered afterward. You also stop blaming yourself for sensing tension you could not prove out loud at first. Your perception was not empty suspicion, it was responding to the gap between performance and feeling. That matters in friendships, dating, family, work, and every conversation where the surface story seems complete. Because people rarely reveal themselves only through what they say, they reveal themselves through what slips. And what slips is often tiny, which is exactly why it can be so powerful later. A split second is enough to change trust, attraction, comfort, distance, or the meaning of memory. You can forget the sentence, but still remember the look, because your system stores emotional contradictions. It remembers the smile that never reached the eyes, the warmth that cooled too suddenly there. It remembers the pause before yes, the stare that felt sharp, the glance that vanished downward. And it remembers because those moments hinted at something unfinished inside the person facing you there. Maybe they wanted closeness but feared needing it, wanted honesty but feared the cost of it. Maybe they admired you and resented that, trusted you and doubted you, felt safe and threatened. Human behavior is full of mixed signals because human emotion is full of mixed motives underneath. That does not make people fake, it makes them divided in real time like everyone else. The danger is not in noticing the change, it is in turning every change into certainty. Notice patterns, not permanent conclusions, because one moment can reveal tension without defining the whole person. But if the same mismatch repeats again and again, especially around the same topic, listen harder. Repetition turns a clue into a pattern, and patterns tell you where someone's unresolved feelings live. That is where observation becomes wisdom, not reading minds, but recognizing emotional pressure before words admit. You become harder to mislead, softer toward complexity, and more aware of the invisible negotiations around you. And that awareness changes your relationships because you stop reacting only to words and start noticing. You notice what arrives early, what lags behind, what warms, and what has to be forced. You notice when someone is present on the surface but somewhere else emotionally for 1 second. And once you see that, ordinary life becomes full of signals most people walk past blindly. If this helped you name something you have felt, share your moment below and stay close. Subscribe to Novi Mind if you want the hidden psychology most people miss in plain sight. Next time we are going into the smile that looks kind while changing the whole room.